Okay, so here we are in the Ignatius Catholic Study Bible, Old and New Testament, RSV, Second and Catholic Edition. I just finished up the Job, Book of Job. I need to read all this introductory to the wisdom literature, but I did read the introductory to Job. I started December 26, 2024. It's currently February 9th, 2025. Let's see, in the introduction, one of the things I noted interesting was the art of it, right? It talks about the literary background. The Book of Job is one of the great literary masterpieces of all time. Scholars usually classify it as part of wisdom literature of the Old Testament alongside related books of Proverbs and Ecclesiastes. This is certainly an accurate assessment, although Job contains not only proverbial sayings about life and religion, but other literary forms such as laments and legal disputations. Yes, so there's a literary unity to the book. There's a theme throughout it, dealing with the existential question of human misery, right? Something we all deal with. So it's philosophy and poetry. And this way, it's something everybody should read, even if you're not a Jew or a Christian, right? You should read it as a piece of history and a piece of literature, right? You wouldn't skip Shakespeare just because you didn't like plays in schools. It shouldn't matter if it's public or private, right? Job is one of these great books of history. Okay, but then as a Christian, right, we're dealing with the themes of retribution theory, right? Does God's justice mean he lifts up those currently, right? And there's lots of Christians who believe, right? The same as Job's friends, right? Who God says is wrong, right? They believe that God will lift them up in this life if they're righteous. And that's just not true, because the book of Job is about our limits and understanding. So going into it, I got into the first chapter on 12:27. You know, lots of notes on these, right? As you can see, pretty heavily marked up. We have this word study on Satan, right? Satan, a legal term meaning adversary or accuser. It can refer to a prosecutor in a court, such as Psalm 109:6, or more broadly to a hostile political opponent, such as in 1 Kings 11:14, or even an enemy of a combatant on a battlefield, 1 Samuel 29:4. In one case, the angel of the Lord acts as an adversary to obstruct the way of Balaam in Numbers 22:22. A few occurrences of the term refer to spiritual being in the Bible, elsewhere calls the devil. He is a dark spirit who sows evil in the hearts of men, 1 Chronicles 21:1, and accuses them before the Lord, Zechariah 3:1-2 and Revelations 12:10. Use of this term in Job 1 and 2 represent an early stage of the way of the developing understanding. Scholars infer because the Hebrew text of Job never speaks of Satan as a proper name, but refers to the Satan, or the adversary, as a functional description. Still, a basic contour of the later idea already is visible. Clearly, this figure is no benevolent spirit who patrols the earth in faithful service to the Lord. On the contrary, he challenges God's knowledge of Job's motives and puts Job in a situation that he proudly asserts will turn him against God. Although the adversary exercises authority over Job's well-being, he is entirely subordinated to God, for he can exert his influence only within the limits that God allows. Job 1:12 and 2:6. and Catechism of the Catholic Church 130, 191, and 195. Right. So Satan on earth is in power. There's a connection in the second between Eve and Job's wife. There's just so many interesting connections. It outlines the dialogues of Job in a nice little chart here. Oh, it's a heavy book to pick up to show, right? That's pretty cool. Which leaves out which chapters. So if you need to quickly find, right? In fact, I'm going to put a mark on that for next time because I did not mark it. Right? Put it right down here. And then if I need to find that, again, referring to Job, right? What was that? Which chapters were that, Bildad spoke, right? We got 8 and then 18 and 25, right? What about those Eliphaz chapters, right? 4 and 5, 15, 22, right? It also helps you see the structure, the literary structure. Beauty matters to God. Beauty matters to me. Beauty matters to you, right? And this is truly beautiful because it goes those places that art calls us to go that we're so often afraid to do. People often decry modern art as ugly. But yeah, there's parts of this that are so very ugly too, right? For an overall purpose of beauty. If modern art fails, it doesn't all fail. It's the point, right? The art that we're still talking 200 years ago for 200 years in the future maybe won't fail, right? Won't be the stuff that failed. Even the stuff 50 years ago, we don't know if we'll still be talking about it in hundreds of years, right? Whether it speaks to people and their existence, short-term or long-term, right? Yeah, so we're slaves of the gods, Bildad comes in. And the funny thing is, these are not whenever his friends are brought in, they're not brought in without wisdom. They're not like straw men. They have strong arguments for why they believe what they believe. And wisdom can be pulled out even from, Zohar's speeches, right? Here's from Zohar, right? But oh, that God would speak and open his lips to you, and that he would tell you the secrets of wisdom, for he is manifold in understanding. Right? This is true. And in fact, it's ultimately the lack of understanding that Job has, right? And then there's also, for a Christian, pointing towards Jesus, right? I feel like in chapter 14, we have, there's hope for a tree. If it be cut down, that it will sprout again, and its shoot will not cease. Though its root grows old in the earth, and its stump dies in the ground, yet at the scent of water it will bud and put forth branches like a young plant. Right, that was the Jesus, the last budding of the house of David. In the last era, when Jewish people really knew which families they belonged to on large, right? Lots of angels in this, right? In this book. But ultimately, its real value comes in that it deals with what we really experience, right? We all experience, not to the extremes Job does, right? But we all experience suffering. We all experience loss and death in our life. There's an old saying from the 60s, right? Nobody gets out of here alive. Was that the Doors, right? Or maybe Jimi Hendrix or something, right? Somebody said it. And then we get to Job 27 and 28, right? Where Job swears his oath of innocence. And then where shall wisdom be found? And you can see Job's understanding growing even through his conversations with his friends. So, you know, we shouldn't read his friends so negatively. You know, they're limited, obviously, and they're unfair. And young Elihu in chapter 32. Oh, this is great. Going back page, we have this word study on the word if. You know, if. Im is a word used in a variety of ways in Hebrew. It often a conditional term, if, that introduces subordinate clause, such as if-then statements. Sometimes it functions as an alternative conjunction, or, that links two equivalent options. And sometimes it acts as an exemptive term, unless, when an action hinges on whether an antecedent condition is fulfilled first. The word is particularly meaningful in certain oath formulas that appear in the Bible, such as Job 31, 5-40. There are 16 standard statements introduced with the Hebrew im. Each of these is a conditional self-curse. Yeah. Yeah, and Elihu's comes off a little bit pretentious, right? A little bit prideful, but still, you know, there's wisdom, especially in Elihu. God is mighty and does not despise any. Well, we all know that, right? We all breathe. And then, do not long for the night when peoples are cut off in their place. Take heed, do not turn to iniquity. It's funny, I almost feel like Dylan Thomas, right? Rage Against the Dying of the Light. Might be a modification of Job 36:20. Do not long for the night when peoples are cut off from in their place. And he takes the opposite position, right? More of Job's. You know? And then the Lord answers Job in 38. Talks about the cosmic temple and angels and his omnipotence and omniscience. And even has sarcasm. You know, for you were born then, and the number of your days is great. Right? You know? And Job sees God and stands in awe. What else can he, right? Realizing his pride. So wonderful. And then Job is given an extra long lifespan, more in line with the patriarchal era, right? It's a wonderful thing. So, next, I could do the Psalms. I could do, maybe I'll do, I just did one of the wisdom literature. Maybe I'll go to one of the historical books and do one of those, right? Maybe I'll jump around in this book. I don't know. Any opinions? What do you think is the best way to approach this? Maybe I will jump around. I don't know. Then just get a good feeling for it, but then just keep track of what I've read and eventually get to everything, right? Have a great day.